Welcome to my Prospectus proposal, Implementation Efficacy of a Multi-Tiered System of Supports. My name is Karen Karanzas. My dissertation team includes Dr. White, Chair, Dr. Schatzberger, Methodologist, and Dr. Lyles, Reader. A brief overview of myself and my proposed study. I am currently serving as an assistant principal for an elementary school in an upstate of South Carolina school district. In our contemporary educational landscape, where student achievement and progress are paramount, schools must ensure that curricular processes meet all student needs. South Carolina introduced the statewide framework for MTSS, South Carolina MTSS, as part of Act 213 in 2018. This framework directed districts to implement MTSS beginning in the 2019-2020 school year. However, the 2020 pandemic brought the early stages of implementation to a halt. Districts began implementation efforts again in the 2022-2023 school year. Limited research exists on post-pandemic implementation strategies. I became interested in this topic as a post-pandemic educator working to identify and address gaps in my students' learning. Schools in the proposed school district are in different stages of early implementation. My study will look at the SC-MTSS framework and identify how teachers' perceptions of implementation efficacy during the 2024-2025 school year correlate with end-of-year student achievement scores. The South Carolina MTSS system consists of 6 components: leadership, building capacity, communication and collaboration, data-based problem solving, a 3-tiered instruction and intervention model, and data evaluation. It reflects the principles of South Carolina's school improvement cycle, which includes diagnosing deficiencies, selecting evidence-based strategies and interventions, developing goals, implementing a plan for improvement, assessing the effects of the plan, and revising the plan as needed based on outcomes. Effective leadership, building capacity, communication and collaboration, data-driven problem solving, and data evaluation are essential for successful implementation. The MTS system was adopted to address instructional loss and promote equity in education, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic. Effective leadership is crucial for a successful MTSS implementation, with school administrators, instructional coaches, and guidance counselors working together as a leadership team. Building capacity and infrastructure for implementation requires continuous professional development, coaching, and data-driven problem solving. Communication and collaboration are essential for successful implementation and long-term sustainability. Data-driven problem solving is essential for MTSS implementation, involving clearly defining achievement goals, identifying obstacles, devising and implementing evidence-based structures, and assessing the effectiveness of the implementation plan. The 3-tiered instructional and intervention model is another essential component, with Tier 1 providing high-quality core instruction for all of our students, Tier 2 providing supplemental instruction or intervention, and then Tier 3 providing intensive, small group, or individual interventions for students facing significant barriers. Due to the diverse nature of educational infrastructures for addressing systems change, educational systems must implement a coaching framework to improve academic achievement. Research supports the utilization of implementation science as a guiding framework for systems change. The National Implementation Research Network defines implementation science as the study of variables that affect the complete and effective application of innovations in practice. 4 critical phases comprise the implementation process: exploration, installation, initial, and then full implementation. Educational systems must complete each stage with fidelity for the process to be effective. South Carolina lags behind other states in ensuring MTSS implementation across all districts. Following in the footsteps of Florida's MTSS processes, South Carolina recommends districts use implementation science for their instructional framework. The implementation science model implements 3 primary drivers: competency, organization, and leadership, to outline the essential elements of MTSS. Competency drivers involve the methodical approach by which schools develop, enhance, and maintain teachers' and leaders' capacities to execute evidence-based practices to ensure student achievement. Organizational drivers include decision-supported data systems, facilitative administration, and systems interventions. Leadership drivers encompass 2 distinct forms of leadership: technical and adaptive. District and school leaders must provide educators with the infrastructure needed to execute the transformational change process of MTSS effectively. Educational leaders may employ the 3 key drivers of implementation: competency, organization, and leadership to implement MTSS practices. When integrated gradually from process exploration to full implementation, these drivers are crucial in defining the requirements for successful MTSS implementation. The South Carolina MTSS Framework and Guidance Document is a resource for implementing a problem-solving framework in South Carolina schools since the 2019-2020 school year. However, the COVID-19 pandemic delayed the process, leading to marginal improvements in literacy and mathematics. The pandemic's impact on student learning and performance could have long-term consequences, affecting students' ability to master grade level standards. To mitigate these effects, comprehensive MTSS implementation, individualized intervention, and high-quality Tier 1 curriculum is essential. The literature on South Carolina MTSS implementation strategies in post-pandemic educational systems is limited, and the success of South Carolina MTSS implementation in South Carolina schools is not fully addressed. This study aims to investigate the relationship between teachers' self-assessment of MTSS, otherwise known as SAM scores, and their students' achievement on the South Carolina College and Career Ready Math Assessments, SC Ready. The research will measure teachers' views of school-level South Carolina MTSS implementation using the SAM 2.0 instrument and will involve 4th and 5th grade general education elementary teachers and their students' MAT and AVT achievement data. The research aims to broaden knowledge on the implementation of MTSS and its relationship to student achievements. The study aims to improve South Carolina's school implementation of MTSS evidence-based teaching strategies. It examines the relationship between educators' assessments of South Carolina MTSS implementation, integrity, and student achievement. The study focuses on the implementation of 6 core leadership principles of South Carolina MTSS, including capacity and infrastructure, communication and collaboration, database problem solving, tiered instruction, and data evaluation. The findings can inform national implementation methods and guide leadership teams in creating professional development plans. The study also highlights the importance of MTSS implementation fidelity in ensuring the success of all South Carolina students. The findings will contribute to the literature on MTSS and guide leadership teams in developing implementation plans for their schools. The following research question guided this quantitative study. Is there a relationship between teacher perceptions of MTSS implementation fidelity and math student achievement growth as measured by SC Ready math assessments? The history of RTI can be traced back to pioneer research in the 1970s, which laid the foundation for the MTSS methodology implemented by many states. Heller et al. Proposed a process requiring general education teachers to provide multiple interventions to struggling students and document their progress within these interventions before referring students to special education. However, this concept was not reconsidered until the 1990s, when the population of over-identified learning disabled students became the most representative disability among school-aged students. Organizations like the National Association of School Psychologists and the National Institute for Child Health and Development recommended altering the identification process for students with mild disabilities in the early 2000s. In 2001, the Office of Special Education Programs funded the National Research Center on Learning Disabilities to move beyond discrepancy models and research RTI and other models to improve the criteria for LD identification. In 2004, President Bush signed into law the Reauthorized Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, which removed the discrepancy model as a requirement for identifying SLD and added a process to see if the child responded to a specific research-based intervention as part of the evaluation. The 2004 reauthorization of IDEA provided an approach to intervention that generated data in a systematic way that could be applied to identify students who may require special education and related services. However, the lack of guidance in state laws and guidelines on implementing RTI led to inconsistent delivery in schools throughout the country. Looking at modern-day legislation, the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, replaced No Child Left Behind as the federal law for K-12 education in December of 2015. Title II of ESSA provides state funding for programs that increase student achievement and encourage a multi-tiered system of supports. South Carolina introduced a statewide framework for MTSS in 2018, directing districts to implement it in the 2019-2020 school year. MTSS aims to address the needs of the whole child, academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally. The state has identified 6 components of the SC MTSS system: leadership, building capacity, communication and collaboration, data-based problem solving, a 3-tiered instruction and intervention model, and data evaluation. MTSS also reflects South Carolina's improvement cycle principles, including diagnosing deficiencies, selecting evidence-based strategies, developing goals, implementing a plan for improvement, assessing the plan's impact, and revising the plan based on outcomes. The literature points to MTSS processes as highly effective frameworks to support student growth and achievement at all tier levels. However, researchers have determined that unmonitored implementation and low fidelity fail to produce positive intervention results. The research conveys that school leadership is a powerful predictor of student achievement and that actively involved leadership teams can positively affect student achievement. According to the National Association of State Directors of Special Education, educator buy-in for RTI increases when leadership provides professional development that puts the changes within the historical context of RTI, shows the connection of RTI to positive student outcomes, and is paired with administrative support. Given the documented importance of leadership involvement in the MTSS process and the gap in literature addressing post-pandemic implementation, this study aims to investigate the relationship between teacher SAM scores on the efficacy of MTSS implementation and their students' achievement on South Carolina college and career-ready math assessments. Using a predictive, quantitative, correlational study is appropriate for this research because it allows for the identification and measurement of potential relationships between variables. Quantitative research relies on collecting and analyzing numerical data to describe, explain, predict, or control variables, and studying correlations helps researchers identify patterns and trends in data, leading to better understanding of underlying mechanisms and potential causal relationships. This approach provides empirical evidence that we can use to predict outcomes and establish correlations, offering valuable insights into the effectiveness of MTSS implementation strategies and their impact on student achievement. The study will be conducted in a rural South Carolina school district. The district's population is predominantly white, with Black, Hispanic, Asian, and other race populations. The district has 63% of its students living in poverty. The sample of 109 4th and 5th grade general education teachers housed in 13 elementary schools will be issued electronically the SAM survey during a fourth quarter PLC. Participation will be optional. The study will also examine the growth of 4th and 5th grade students in the district who had an MAT and AVT target set for the 2025 administration of the SC Ready Mathematics Assessment. The Self-Assessment of MTSS Implementation, or SAM survey, will be used by participating teachers to measure their opinions of school-level implementation of MTSS. SAM is a comprehensive evaluation framework that helps schools align their practices with evidence-based standards. The SAM structured approach allows educational leaders to identify areas of strength and need within their MTSS practices, facilitating targeted improvements. The instrument has 42 items organized into 6 domains: leadership, building the capacity infrastructure for implementation, communication and collaboration, database problem solving, 3-tiered instructional and intervention model, and data evaluation. Each participant will receive directions for completion. The survey asks teachers to rate each item on a scale from 0 to 3, 0 being not started, 1 being emerging or developing, 2 operational, and 3 optimizing. Teachers will be provided the definitions for each rating. In addition, the survey will ask participants about their gender, race, and years of experience. I will stratify the participants into groups based on school location to connect the results to each leadership team. Once the district receives 2025 SC Ready math scores, the district data team will calculate growth results for each teacher, and I will receive overall growth results for each teacher and results for each MAT and AVT percentile group. The district's data team will de-identify all student data before providing it for evaluation, and I will de-identify all teacher data before publication. This study aims to determine the correlation between teachers' self-assessment of MTSS implementation scores and their students' achievement using the Pearson correlation coefficient. The study will categorize MAT scores into 4 subgroups and AVT scores into 6 subgroups to explore the correlations between teacher SAM scores and student achievement. Multiple regressions will be employed to investigate the predictive relationship between teachers' SAM scores across 6 domains of leadership, building capacity and infrastructure for implementation, communication and collaboration, data-based problem solving, Tier 3 instruction intervention models, and data evaluation. Data screening processes will involve visual examination for missing or inaccurate data and the use of scatter plots to identify extreme outliers. The study will use Pearson's R to gauge the effect size and predict relationships, with Cohen's F2 determining the effective size. The researcher will reject the null hypothesis at the 95% confidence level. Every study inherently contains limitations that are beyond the control of the researcher. One study limitation involves the limitation of email surveys themselves and the variability in response rates, which often fall below 30%. Additionally, the length of this survey could potentially limit responses, as it may discourage participation. Sampling bias might be present if only those respondents with a particularly favorable or unfavorable view and experience regarding MTSS implementation choose to complete the study. The study will employ convenient sampling due to the availability of data, which may not accurately represent the entire population under investigation. Also, the reliance on secondary data proposes a limitation as it presumes the accuracy and proper collection of this data occurs. Finally, despite the widespread implementation of MTSS across the United States, this study's scope is constrained by its focus on a single school district in South Carolina. This concludes my Prospectus proposal presentation. Thank you for viewing. Please contact me at karencarranzas@pickens.k12.sc.us with any comments, suggestions, or questions. A list of presentation references is available upon request. Thank you again.